Okay, welcome to the Parking Task Force of November 13 here at the Senior Center. We have announcements, public comments. The announcements that I'll give you are that Sheila indicated she wouldn't be present, as has Mike Hurley and Suzanne Thomas, but I hope we're at a stage where their advice is not needed as much anymore. So with that, any announcements by the board members? Hearing none, I'll close that section of the meeting. And we have the meeting minutes, which Wayne had circulated earlier. If anybody wants a copy, I have a copy. But
I move they be approved as written.
Second. I have a comment, but I do not have a copy.
Okay, there you go.
On the, under Wellfleet Forum and Select Board presentation, the third paragraph down, the last sentence regarding the years for the covenant should be 30.
Oh, 30, okay.
And not 20. And that legal opinion did not come from town council. It was an independent legal opinion.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to approve is amended. Start with you guys again.
Yeah, so moved.
Second?
Dan,
In favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Joe. There is no recent correspondence. I checked in today, and so that is a moot point. And then planning for the forum presentation and planning for the select board, I suggest that we just take them together. Sheila had indicated in a note when she indicated her absence that sometime in December seems to be where we're headed. I think it's going to be the same report, essentially. I imagine the discussion will be different. So then that then takes us into what are we going to say? And what I was thinking is that I would give kind of introductory remarks. You have copies of my slides, and I'll take them through on the machine. And then we have the other sessions, the other areas that we want to discuss, the surveys and all that. So if you excuse me, I'll go over to where Wayne is. I would just comment that we've done so much that it's hard to boil it all down, and I didn't intend to try to get all of the facts into this presentation, and I'm figuring that we will put the subjects on the table and let people open it up to what they want to discuss. So I thought just the opening gun would be that we were created in August of 2018. I wasn't even going to bother introducing the members. You guys will be there or not there, it doesn't matter. And then read the charge and point out how broad it is, and then say that we really ended up focusing on three principal areas, being the beaches, the downtown, and the marina.
So Denny, do you want to say why the a parking task force was set up?
I do. That was part of my thought was that I would say that it was established because of the July 4th activities out at Cahoon Hollow and all of the concerns that were raised by the lack of coordination. So and people just, good point. I will cover that though.
Okay.
Thank you. And I tried to point out what our challenges were. I've used different shorthand, but basically saying the potential demand is greater than available spaces, and we've certainly had a lot of discussion about how there was excess demand at many times, but not that many times. We had the 4th of July of 2018, in which one of the parking parking staff indicated he thought they probably could have had 5,000 cars come into the beaches that day. We just can't handle that. Part of our challenges are that limited expansion is available, especially by town-owned property. And we had a challenge of not having a clear definition of what our objectives were, or a record of our activities. Another challenge is the recognition that there are oceanside erosion rates of about 3 feet a year. Another challenge is that the marina parking has been used beyond what it was planned for. Originally set up to just cover the marina and some of the smaller buildings down there. The use has grown far beyond what was intended. And also we've got this issue out on the horizon of dredging. And we imagine that dredging will create more use of the marina as more people come and people stay longer. So, and then we always have the challenge of special events, be it the 4th of July, the Oyster Fest, or Porch Fest, or all the different things that go on. And then kind of a new thing that's happened in the last few years are the bus deliveries to Cahoon Hollow. So those are all kind of major issues. We can stop and talk about those. I can easily add, if there anything you want me to add.
So I don't really know this. So originally, when the task force was set up, were there a lot of people who complained because they couldn't get parking? Or was it just more that the select board was just thinking towards the future and trying to be proactive?
I'm glad you're asking, but my impression of that, Bruce, is that people have always complained, and it's always been tight, and you're never going to have enough for everybody. But probably the crowning blow was all the trash at the oceanside beaches, and the great demand that was there, and all the people that were being dropped off by buses. And we really didn't have a good system to control how those were done, how the people were dropped off the bus at Cahoon Hollow. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
Just out of order, sorry. I wanted to mention that parking regulations do exist throughout the town in 4 primary areas, and the beach regulations. And I just put these subcategories on here so people can be aware of the situation, i.e. beach stickers in the season, no charge at Mayo Beach, and a daily fee at Whitecrest. General bylaws and traffic regulations, no street parking unless posted, and signed for 2 and 4 hour limit in downtown. And then I wanted to bring up the zoning bylaws and how permits should be issued based on parking available, based on capacity and staff. And then the marina regulations, we've got 2 areas there, and we can go into those more later, but we've got Area A, which is to the east, and Area B, which is to the west, general issue. I'm not sure what I mean by permit holders here.
What's reserved?
The area to the east is supposedly, there's a list of people who are supposed to park there, like boat trailers and trucks and all that. They're in the marina regulations. So,
They
although
can or cannot park?
they can.
Yeah.
It does not specifically mention the general public, and the other side does not specifically mention who can park there. So it's really kind of a loose control system.
Do we have any idea what the number of parking spaces are in either A or B? I'm just
There's a
curious.
total of 301, and I do have the breakdown.
We do have, yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, I was gonna, this was in the right sequence here. Just the historic condition of Wellfleet always having a parking challenge. The fact that there have been prior studies done in the last 10 years, maybe 12 years, and some of those studies were, and I'd name them, I better put the names in. So, then I'd name them being the National Seashore and the Parking Task Force One. I don't know if I really want to go in and summarize what those guys did. I don't think I do. Anybody got a feeling on that?
I agree that, yeah, you should not.
Our results superseded it.
Yep. And then, you know, the part of the background is that we had our surveys of 2018 done over last year end. And there were 3 primary surveys, the Ocean View beaches, and I should change that to Ocean View Drive beaches. The business parking, and then the marina and slip holders survey. The business parking, I will try to define, and then we'll have more definition on that. I think Sheila was gonna do that, or Wayne.
Yeah, I couldn't, I got something, but not,
Yeah,
no,
so I'll try to flesh this out a little more.
yeah.
Yeah, my only thought, is by business parking, do you mean the center of town?
No, it was not the center of town.
Okay.
It was all areas, if you recall, we had 3 or 4 different zones. There was the center of town, there was within a quarter or a half mile of the
Okay.
pier, and then we had Route 6 North and Route 6 South.
Okay, I gotcha.
So that's why we use that term. It was really just to the business owners, rather than the general public.
Can you go back to the last slide, Ken?
That one?
In the observations, area, do we want to put changes too that were made already in 2019?
No, you'll see that later.
Okay.
But maybe we should at this stage. Because I was thinking that we would have, then we'd bring in the other studies. We won't do the prior studies. Then we'll do the surveys, and let you guys go through the surveys. And then here are the observations of 2019 again. So this would be kind of, I'd step aside, and then you guys, other guys would take over. And then coming back to my section of the presentation, I would get back into recommendations, continued collection of data, the use of credit cards, which was brought in this year, and Suzanne was really appreciative of that. And then somehow we need to finesse parking status online, management of buses, and that's got a whole host of things like the police control, like reservation by the bus companies, off-site parking and fees. I might just say that Suzanne has talked to the school committee, and there seems to be some forward progress on putting the buses at the school. That's good. We haven't really talked about the current White Crest fee as being higher than most. I kind of like it myself, but rather have some feedback from you guys.
I think people are used to it by now.
I think they're used to it, and it's paid by plastic, and they don't hardly blink on it.
We have a shorter walk than everybody else too, so.
Yep. We have talked about the beachcomber rental of space and the shuttles, and we certainly want to see those continue. And then everybody's expecting us to say something about the White Crest expansion. I would say monitor the need for White Crest. I don't see it in panic. One of the things I guess I didn't say up front was we don't see any crises on our doorstep right now, but I don't see a need to do White Crest expansion at this time. We do think that we'd move the beach office. We should move the beach permit office, and I didn't put where, because I think Suzanne's still working on that. But either to Mayo Beach or to the Lawrence Road where the police station was. And I think our idea is just to get that out of that area and into a less used parking area. And then the only other one I have is more parking at Mayo Beach on the grassy area. Do we want to say there ought to be a consultant involved with that process?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I also wonder whether that, even though it's right next to Mayo Beach, I always viewed that as an extension of the pier parking. That's where I thought that the use would come. But just a thought, that does it belong here or on the next page?
Well, I believe the beach department monitors that, and I know the beach department does the kayak rentals that are there. So, I don't know if
No, that's fine, I just threw it out.
okay. So other recommendations I have in the marina was to engage a consultant to maximize the number of spaces. And if somebody wants to get into control, we can get into control, but I don't know, we don't know enough about that to make a recommendation. I would like to recommend that there be no new non-marina business needs. So no expansion of commercial activity down there, retail activity, creating more parking needs. There is something we need to do to work with the commercial fishermen. And then also we've had comments about the signage. And there's the move the beach permit office again. Well,
Can I just add, in terms of no new non-marine business needs, if a property is commercially zoned, but their customers would park there, but it's a house now, you mean that they couldn't form a business?
that's right, they'd
Okay.
have to provide their own parking. Under the zoning bylaw, they'd have to provide sufficient parking for their needs,
Yeah.
as determined under the zoning bylaw.
Are there many sites that would apply? I think most everything's residential that's not commercial.
Most of what's left is residential. Some of the restaurant business and gallery business and all that have gotten away from us. So it's too late for that, so I guess that's why I focused on no new business activities.
And how far would that expand? All the way down to,
Well, it just refers to the marina.
so directly abutting the marina or near?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if somebody's gonna come to a permit granting agency like the zoning board and say, oh, we can park them at the pier, I would hope that the ZBA would look at that and say, no, thanks. Downtown, I had no paid parking for the public. We certainly had a result of that, and that would feed into the survey that we did. Reserve parking for workers. In theory, the business owners are supposed to provide their parking for workers, but again, some of these have gotten away from us, but if they want to reserve some parking area, somebody needs to figure out where and how to charge for it.
So, excuse me,
Yeah.
no paid parking for public. What data do we have regarding that?
We have the business survey saying that people don't want to see paid parking downtown. We also have survey results that say that people feel that residents and people with beach stickers should be able to park for free. And then we don't have any recommendations on satellite parking or shuttles. I personally don't feel we need them, but again, this is the committee that should be talking, so if anybody objects, let me know.
The one thing, Denny, and I don't know if this is the place to put it in there, but it seems to me that we ought to recommend some negotiations or at least conversations with the seashore regarding the possibility of satellite parking, and while it's not a parking issue, also the long-term plans or things that might be done in view of the loss of Ocean View Drive by Whitecrest.
Yeah,
So you could add a category called long-term planning, just,
okay.
that would include the consultant to look at the overall parking issue, not just the marina.
I don't know, yeah. I don't know what scope of work we'd want from a consultant. Anybody have a feeling on that?
Well, we've got a lot of data on what's here now, just,
Utilizing a consultant for what service?
For planning for future parking. I mean, if we were ever gonna open a satellite lot, we probably should have a consultant
For sure.
do that and help us with that.
Would the Cape Cod Commission be a good starting point as using their staff?
I should think they would be, and I'd view them as a consultant.
Yep.
So, but it ought to be brought up. so. And then I kind of had a final slide here, which was, appreciation of all the help that we've gotten. We think that the town should rely on appropriate staff who are good, and any future task force should have a pretty limited scope instead of this broad brush cannon fodder, so. And then the final one was disband the PTF too, so that, we can come back to these, so. And then,
Should we say something about when or in what form we will be giving recommendations to the select board?
it'll already been done by then, I think, right?
well, these are those, Bruce. And my thought is that whichever group is ready for us first, after we're ready, we'll go to.
So it'll be a verbal
And these
or a written
slides,
report or,
I'd just make these slides, the report to the selectmen. That may not satisfy them.
Have we put in a formal agenda request to the Board of Selectmen?
No,
Not yet, no. And when we're ready, we should.
Well, I mean, it looks, I'm guessing that if anything involves finances, it really needs to get in sooner rather than later, because they're, just about to go into budget things, and if none of these things are in there, it's gonna be another year or two before anything happens.
I think Suzanne's already pursuing the moving of the beach parking office. And we'd asked her to try to pursue the online application, but she seems to want to wait till 2021 for that. At least at the last time she spoke about it.
I do think we should have a final written report. It does not have to be elaborate. We have write-ups for the three main areas that can be used. And perhaps Wayne and Bruce can do a very brief overview of the data that they compiled in the conclusions. I mean, I think it's really significant, for example, when you look at the issue of the shuttle bus. I was rereading that survey today, how many don't want it, how many do, and so forth. I think that's valuable information, and if we put the time and work into it, Why not be on the record and present it as such?
I'm hoping it would be, because I'm hoping that there'd be a summary of the surveys.
Yep.
And that would be in it. I jumped right to the end without you seeing the surveys, train of thoughts, but yes.
I mean, I think one of the missions of this task force, as I see it, is not only to make recommendations, but to provide some education.
Somewhat?
Education.
Okay, yeah.
There's an awful lot of views out there, for example, about beach parking. Extremes. And yet the data has revealed that there's really not an outstanding problem right now that would motivate us, for example, to pave Whitecrest or to implement a shuttle bus. That's valuable information, and I do think it should be presented in written form. If we assume that in not too many years, there's going to be another task force, I think that's a valid assumption. I think those folks would benefit from having our information to build on instead of reinventing the wheel.
Now, when you do this, Denny, are we going to jump in halfway through and then you'll come
Yes.
back?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my thought.
All right.
So it'd be, before we get into the final recommendations, that all the data would be presented, so. If that's okay with you guys,
But what, you say talk with Cape Cod National Seashore about,
well, yeah.
I mean, because it could be 1,000 things to talk to them, but what primarily, when the road disappears, or,
I think that's, yeah, I mean,
We're not looking for anything immediately from them, are we? Well,
what's that?
we're not looking for anything immediately from
Oh, no, it'll be a few more years before the road falls in the water.
that's the sort of thing I was hoping would come up in discussion. I mean, if I don't say it, you guys are welcome to say it and should say it. And if somebody doesn't ask about it, we should say it. But, I mean, we've learned a heck of a lot during this process.
We have, yeah.
Can't dump it all.
I would guess that most people don't realize that 250 parking spaces have been lost.
What period of time is that, Joe?
I believe Suzanne went back 8 years, 8 or 9 years.
A hard time understanding that number.
I do too. That doesn't sound
Yeah, but unless I misunderstood her.
Well,
I have surveys going back, or aerials going back to 1980, I believe, and I'm trying to find an engineer that by, aerials calculations can determine, how many we lost over the last, that's what, 30 years almost, but haven't found anyone yet.
I'd love to look at those, because
Yeah,
I can
okay.
probably overlay them on the current ones. One thing I do have is some slides that I think some of them you've seen. These things just showing the parking lots, showing town-owned land versus seashore or somebody else. Here we have Newcomb's Hollow. I'm sure most people don't realize that part of that parking space is leased from the park. There's that one. This one takes a little longer to study, but it's at Cahoon Hollow, showing the town versus CCNS versus the private being the Beachcomber. Whitecrest, we have this configuration showing where the town land is and what is National Seashore at LeCount, or I guess we should call it McGuire's. That, the only land we...
There's no west, Denny.
Okay, thank you. So McGuire, we should just point out that the only thing we've got there is a road, and that's where people are parking. I hesitate to throw the landing strip in for discussion, but
Well, that's the most logical place to do a satellite, well, I guess not logical because of the traffic to
Too
get down.
far
to the-
away.
yeah.
I mean, whatever the purpose, at some point, unless we just want to see Wellfleet become more and more and more crowded, we're going to have to go to the seashore to get any area to expand.
Well, we claim this is ours, but I think...
Oh, yes, I'm aware of that.
You're
It's
well
the
aware.
access issue, but, you know, it may be too late, but the town does have some leverage if they would only use it with the seashore.
Yeah, this would be a land swap possibility, but they're not very open to land swaps for parking, according to Suzanne. They've tried it in Truro with no success.
And I also hear there's an access problem to that strip of land.
They take issue that it's landlocked.
Yeah.
And
there-
recent legal work that was done sort of confirmed that. But
I think there are alternative positions.
Right, and that I understand.
Mayo Beach, just so people know, there it is. I could probably come in closer on that so people could see the grassy strip. Powers Landing's pretty well landlocked. Duck Harbor, this was interesting to me that the town had all that blue area, but I can't imagine making that into a parking area there. Then we haven't talked about the breakwater. There's certainly more land over there for parking.
Where's that? Breakwater?
Breakwater, Indian Neck,
oh yeah,
go down Indian Neck Road. And it's not overly used, but it is monitored by the beach department.
so that could potentially be a satellite parking site, maybe.
Well, it's certainly an inconvenient satellite parking.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
There's the marina. It's hard to get a bigger picture of that. Then there's downtown, the town lots, behind the town hall, and then over in front of Pres Hall there. Those two lots, are the big lots. And that's an impossible picture, so don't worry about it.
Great pictures.
Oops, what happened there? So, let's see, Wayne, you want to
Yep.
talk about your surveys? Is this the one you want first?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is just, I thought we don't necessarily have to put this in, but this is from the commentary that we received in the various written and online surveys that were provided down at the seashore. I'm in the beach office. And what I did was just told how many we got and the different topics we have, and then listed the top five topics. That shark should say 24. I don't know what happened to the 24, but I'll make sure it gets back there. Oh, that's, yeah, the numbering's wrong. So there's some pagination problems here, but, and then the shuttle was sort of all those that commented on the shuttle was, that should be 25, 24, again, typo. But it was sort of, even discussion about a shuttle or some form of a shuttle or where it should come from. And actually, must be the wrong slides, because I corrected all these things, but actually, no more parking is 36, and more parking is 34. So I'll look, I must have pulled up the wrong file, but go on to the next slide if you want, Denny.
Okay.
And this was the, actually, let's see, what's this slide called? Taxpayer survey comments.
It's called Taxpayer Survey.
Yeah, all right, now go to another file. I just reused this file, so go to another file.
Hang on.
taxpayer survey comes, use the next one, commercial vehicle monitoring highlights. There we go. Okay, this was the results of our information that came from the police department's surveying. There's only 13 days this year that they actually monitor it, mainly Saturdays and a few Sundays, and obviously the 4th of July holiday period. There were a total of number of 135 vehicles, and we broke it down between full-size and the smaller buses and the limos. And I guess we'd point out, and if you go to the next slide, the number of passengers that were recorded were close to 3,000, which is roughly 226 per day that they're actually in use, and 78% of those arrivals are on Saturdays. And during the holiday holiday period, 61 of the 135 arrived, or 45% of the total volume. So the volume for the 4th of July is obviously very high and closely monitored and run. The balance of the weekends, it's usually, maybe as many as 12 or 14, but typically single digits to low double digits.
So how many days did the lots reach capacity? Which,
That's another set of slides, yeah.
oh,
Okay.
well, that's the title up there.
Oh, I guess I didn't change the title. I recopied these. I'll correct that, but yeah, that should say, yeah, go ahead, just go to the next slide. I'll correct that. These are the following improvements that were made to the charter vehicle process and Cahoon Hall parking, and that vehicles were given arrival and departure time slots 15 minutes apart to avoid overcrowding that we experienced in 2018. And the police department does mount or board all the buses before they disembark the passengers and give them the information about the town regulations, and they also gather the information that we need to contact them if there are any emergencies or problems. And this year they obviously is the police chief going to speak at this, I guess?
I think he'll be available.
Okay, well, at any rate, they obviously proved their presence, particularly on July 4th weekend, which helped dramatically. Okay, I think that's the end of this.
I don't know that I'd say where they got their assistance.
Okay, all right,
It's the police department that's doing it.
okay, take it out. I think that's the end.
Were there more on that one?
No, that's it. Yep. So plan changes for 2020 is Suzanne's working on providing a parking area for the commercial vehicles in which they will pay probably a flat fee for the season, which could generate close to $10,000 or more in new revenue, which will offset our increased security, safety, and trash costs.
Does anybody know, do we have a statement somewhere that says that we'll only take buses in at Cahoon Hollow?
It's the only place people want to go, but that might be part of the agreement with them. I don't think they drop them off anywhere else that I'm aware of. Certainly, one tried to go down to.
Yeah, when they tried to do it at Newcomb, it shut the place down for almost an hour, so.
No place for the bus to turn around either of the locations. But that's probably something to do. And then I don't know if we want to have the bus companies come in case questions come up, but they've made a point that they never send more than 20 buses a weekend regardless, and that kind of thing. But maybe that's too detailed.
That's probably too detailed, but the fact is that they're aware of the issue, so. All right.
Next, I think that's the end of that one, maybe, I hope. Yeah, okay. Let's go to the next set of slides. Oh, there is one more, okay. Yeah, this was the positive attributes of the charter services, that it eliminated, the 3,000 people eliminated roughly 1,000 additional cars that we had to park, assuming 3 people per car, which leaves more spaces for the residents and renters. The police believe it's a much safer way to transport those that wish to drink alcohol, both coming and going, and the new bus parking revenue in 2020 will lower our overall operating costs.
Suzanne's wondering about that, whether it will stay in the beach budget or whether it'll go to the school
We
committee.
could just say government operating cost, town government
Okay,
go somewhere.
yep.
So drinking alcohol at the beaches is not legal, right?
It's not legal on the Wellfleet portion of the beaches, which is basically the width of the parking lots, and it is legal on the seashore beaches.
Oh, let's go.
Marijuana is not allowed on any of the beaches.
Okay. Okay, that was that.
Is it through?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the conclusions that are drawn and presented. I would recommend we consider not showing the figures.
Which figures, Joe?
The first
First slide?
part of the
Second
presentation.
slide, I guess it is.
I think people are much more motivated to be interested in the results that we found and the conclusions drawn.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
delete
That's
the-
a little too much, yeah.
Delete that slide, okay.
I guess my reaction is I'll bet a lot of people are not aware of how much bus service is going on out there. So,
So what is that slide we're looking at? Is that 4th of July?
No, that's the entire summer. That's
So we only monitored 13 days?
right, the Monday, no monitoring was take place Monday to Wednesday to,
being by the
Friday.
police department for arriving buses.
right.
So this slide, that data was gathered by the Wellfleet Police Department?
Correct.
And provided to us?
Correct. Yeah, we gave them a format and they followed it. And they kept track of when the bus arrived, the limo company or bus company that provided the service, bus driver's name, emergency contact information, the group that
Okay.
rented the unit, or the group leader of the person that rented the bus, as well as their point of origin, where they loaded up.
Do we know if this is increasing from year to year, or?
No
maybe-
idea. I think it's about, based on when they came in and talked to us, I think they sort of said it was similar to what they've done in the past, but,
I don't
4th
think
of
they,
July this year was a little less, I think,
yeah,
That-
because the
that-
sharks,
that-
yeah.
year. That
but I don't think anybody's been monitoring it otherwise, have they?
Not in an official capacity, obviously, you know.
It was funny to note that there were, the Wednesday before, 4th of July, there were a number of buses, but
So this is just Saturdays and 4th of July weekend and
no,
Labor
some
Day?
Sundays, just whenever the buses showed up, they took the numbers, but it weren't very many Sundays, and there weren't very many, there was a couple, like a Wednesday before 4th of July, they kept track, because there was some buses that showed up, but Monday to Friday, other than the holiday weekend, there was no bus traffic that they had to monitor. Maybe one or two came by, but it's nothing they,
Well, yeah, I'm just confused because it only says they monitored 13 days. So
correct. Yeah, if you, I got a copy of the thing, you can look at it, just,
What?
Well,
so,
I think,
yeah.
I
So there's a
think,
dozen Saturdays, right, or 10 Saturdays? They
yeah,
did
but
every
some,
Saturday, right?
yep, no,
that
there
means they
aren't.
only did 3
no,
other
they,
days
They
entire?
only start, it's just June, they didn't do any monitoring in June. 'cause
Yeah, yeah, okay, so
it's July
9,
and August is 8 months.
okay, so
Eight-
9 Saturdays or 10 Saturdays, say. July and
Yeah, all right,
August?
yeah, yeah, and then
I think
3
that-
Sundays, and that was it.
Okay,
is
that's
this
just
number,
clarifying, so it was 9 Saturdays and 3 Sundays
Yeah,
then,
well, yeah, 9, 3 Saturdays
Or
and 1
10
Wednesday.
and 3, or 9 and 4.
I think these are the number of days that buses showed up when the police department showed up,
Right.
Right.
not necessarily specifically monitored.
I can
Gotcha.
talk to Mark.
I know
but
that they're only, yeah,
Do you think there were many other buses on weekdays that we?
occasionally, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Couple, but I just,
groups of people who want to come down on
Yeah.
a weekday, yeah. I mean,
we can
it's
talk.
not an issue
Yeah.
per se.
No, it's
because
only one or
not-
2 buses a day.
It's not all happening at the same time.
Maybe we should change this to say, number of weekend days monitored, weekend and holidays monitored in 2019. So that it doesn't,
It looks like it's just a sample or something right now.
yeah, but it isn't, it's the weekends only.
somebody would have prearranged for the buses to come and the police department would have known, or not really?
Yeah, under the new plan this year and part of what yes, they will know next year when they're coming and at what time, if they're, if they're prepaid, if they go the prepaid program. And the slots are 15 minutes, and they're pretty, obviously, they can call the officer and say, hey, we're stuck in traffic, move our slot out a little bit, but they're pretty diligent about that, and the bus companies, if you aren't there, we have a 15-minute time slot. If you're not there, we'll leave without you. Take an Uber.
Yep.
So this is a little off topic, but did we talk, or are we planning to present during the forum the data that shows that the number of parking stickers is pretty much the same from last year to this year? Because I think that's something that everybody's on the top of people's mind. Oh, there's sharks here, and now nobody's coming.
I think I made mention of it in one of these slides, but not to that degree. No, we didn't do revenues. We did not do, so far, we have not done revenues. We have not done number of stickers sold. We've covered it in our meetings a number of times, in our minutes, but not, and we will attach those exhibits that were given to us by Suzanne to the website.
I just think it's an important point
Okay.
to make.
Do we want to get into revenues? That, revenues are up at Whitecrest, that type of thing. I left it out, but.
I guess I was thinking that would be something that we could respond to verbally, but.
Okay. All right, next slide, I guess. Oh, no, that's the end of that. Yeah, we did this one. Okay, so do you want to delete that first slide? Or just change it to weekend traffic?
I'm stuck on the word monitored or whatever. Because I think that's the number of days that the police department showed up when there were buses there.
Right.
And I think we'd like to see them be there every time there's a bus there.
Well, that takes him away from other duties, because during the week, he does not need to be there. He cruises all 3 or 4 beaches. And if he's not needed there, I think they assign him, to go over to the beaches on, because I've seen him cruising the marina from time to time and other places, so.
All right. Well, we'll work on it. You want the other set of slides?
Yeah, I think there's one more from me, and then Bruce's, and the summary of the marina, and, okay, this is the,
Oh, sorry.
that's all right.
Come on. Oh, shit.
You could just call that last slide weekend bus data. That would probably be more
Okay,
appropriate.
that's a good one.
I may have lost that, Wayne.
Go to that Windows Explorer. It should be one of the top ones. Or you can just do Bruce's now, and then I'll find it afterwards.
Removable disk,
It's the one with 3A.
3A.
Up higher. That's the whole, that's what we don't want to get into.
What am I gonna do here? All right, where do you want?
Second one down,
Okay,
I believe. There we go. This is the information about the surveys, or the information was provided by the beach attendants. So I just noted the 4 beaches we monitored. Next slide. Total number of days were monitored were 78 by the towns and 69 by DN staff at the Beachcomber. They didn't start till late June. And the lots were only closed 2 days this year due to inclement weather. The days, and then I did the 4 beaches, the days they reached capacity, the percentage of the total days that that beach was monitored, and how much of that was the weekend traffic.
okay.
Next slide. Then I put together a summary of when they fill up, basically, and as you can see, it's typically between 10 a.m. and noon. And then, through the graces of Will's keeping track of his trips to Newcomb's Hollow, we have some information about the late waiting line there. He monitored 29 days. 13 of those days he had to wait in line, which is roughly 45%. His longest wait was 90 minutes, his shortest was 6, and the average waiting time was 21 minutes. And this is when he went to the beach. Typically, it was between the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. time slot. And this is the number of days he had to wait on weekends versus weekdays, and how many of those days he had to wait.
So let me understand.
So,
So there are 10 weekend days when he went, and 4 weekdays.
right,
Number of weekend days, wait a minute. Number of weekdays monitored,
was 19,
okay.
so it's a total of 29, 10 on weekends, 19 on the weekdays.
So,
And roughly price. Just turned it off, so it's not me.
okay,
All right, and then, so roughly on average, about 45% of the time probably you had to wait. Maybe I could add that line too, on average.
okay. That must be the end.
I think that,
That is.
is there another slide? I can't
Nope,
remember now.
nope, there isn't.
Okay, so I'm done.
Let's see.
Anybody want any changes, other than changing it to the weekend on the
I don't know how to.
commercial vehicles?
Okay,
Some of your slides, you have Newcombs with an S. I don't think there's an
Yeah, I
S on
gotta
it.
take the S off, and McGuire's, yep, that's good. Actually, Newcomb's and Wires, spell check's always underlights it anyhow, doesn't like those words.
all
All
right.
right,
Bruce? You want to just talk from there?
Okay, we conducted a survey of taxpayers, both residents and non-residents. It was mailed with the assessor's bills. So it went to everybody, about 3,500 people. We got 908 back. So a couple of major things, findings. We'll just go over the highlights. I can see that's going to be hard to read.
just wanna put the bar chart.
Just the bar chart?
Yeah, okay. I'll fix blow up bar charts. I can do that. Okay. So, one question you may all have is, are taxpayers concerned about, are taxpayers and non-taxpayers, I'm sorry, are residents and non-resident taxpayers concerned about the parking at the beaches? And they have mixed views. 30% are satisfied overall with the availability of parking at the ocean beaches, and 27% are dissatisfied overall. So it's not like they're all saying it's terrible, but there are some mixed feelings.
Next.
Next. Okay. Taxpayers frequently experience full parking lots at the ocean beaches. 56% experience a full parking lot for their first choice beach, several or many times, and 41% experience a full parking lot of their second choice beach, several or many times.
Might want to emphasize this is 2018 data too, because it's, or 2018 results, because I think it proved 19, but. I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Just put, yeah,
2018 data.
emphasize that it's
Yeah,
2018.
yeah, this is, right, this is 2018 data.
Did you do that at the front?
No, but I can say it.
Okay.
Okay, so what do people do when the ocean beach they want to go to is, the lot is full? So 50% drove to a pond or a bay beach, 41% drove to another beach, 38% waited in line, 24% didn't go to the beach that day, 17% arranged to be dropped off, 12% circled around till there was an opening, and 2% parked elsewhere and used a car service. So the shuttle bus, which is one of the solutions for, or has been one of the solutions for parking issues, it hasn't been widely used. 59% were aware in 2018 of the shuttle bus between Whitecrest Lot and Cahoon Hollow Beach, but only 6% used it, and 16% would use it if it were free, 10% would pay a small fee.
Okay.
I think that refers to if we, battery died, if we put in another shuttle. I think that wasn't related to the Newcomb's Hollows, but if the town put in a new shuttle, would you use it?
Can you go back to that slide? This other slide. This was a question about, do people know about the Whitecrest to Cahoon Hollow? Not like the idea of a shuttle like our, you know, I'm saying this is something that's been up and running for like years now, probably, I would say 6 years. So I think basically that's saying that nobody from the town takes the shuttle bus from Whitecrest to Cahoon Hollow, basically, right? I mean,
Right.
90-something%.
Right, but the
They
16,
vaguely know about it, but they have no interest in
Yeah,
it.
but
But that's
the-
not the shuttle that we were
No,
sort of
but-
discussing, potentially some kind of a shuttle.
but the questions, I think the questions that yielded the 16% would use a new shuttle if it were free or.
Okay.
That's
That
the
was-
next one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back and look at the survey about that. I forgot exactly how we phrased it.
Here's the other question, Bruce.
Oh, beginning at Whitecrest, traveling to Newcomb and to LeCount. Okay, so it's a little bit different.
It was a free bus,
Yeah.
and then we had another one, or no, we didn't. I think those were the only two bus results that you had there.
Yes. Yeah, but I'll be clear that this 16% would use this bus if it were free and 10% would pay a small fee. That's for a bus, if a new one were to be used, that would go to, from Whitecrest to Newcomb and LeCount.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
This is the internet information.
All
I
right.
think, just, I don't know if we want to note this, but what is it, 60%, I think, or so, wanted some kind of note? I think to that, you could add those people that go early and go late, because obviously they wouldn't answer yes to this because they don't need it. So I think it's close to really 75 or 80 that,
I see the logic.
Oh,
Okay,
You're saying it's higher than 16% because,
because the people that answered the survey that they go early or go late, they wouldn't really care if there's availability of an internet connection, because they don't need it. They always get in.
right, okay, I see, on that question, all right. Yeah, 59% would check the parking availability on the web if it were there.
I think we had some cull data that said that it was somewhere around 65% of the people who were dissatisfied in the survey would use this information.
Run that by me again?
Well, in one of the
Oh, yeah,
drill downs.
61% of the dissatisfied people
Yeah.
versus 35% of the satisfied were aware of the shuttle. So but you're asking about the use.
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know if I have that here.
We had it at one point, so, okay. I think that's it, Bruce.
Yes.
We got some work to do. Joe, you wanna, how do you wanna do yours? Want any slides to be made or anything like that?
No. I think the statement in my write-up about people not having a lot of complaints at this time summarizes the survey. And clearly, I think imparts the idea that this has to be revisited in a few years. But I tried to give a little bit of education and overview of who uses the marina when they use it, the impact of the lack of dredging, the role that the income generated for the Marina Enterprise Fund plays, the fact that it is perceived and used as a municipal parking lot, meeting the needs of many people, and what we're looking at for the future.
Do you view Mayo Beach as being part of the marina parking lot?
I do not view it now. I think, you know, unofficially, it is used. I tried to carefully word the last paragraph regarding the future and the recommendation that planning begins soon, that off-site parking be utilized, you know, in that planning, and to use the services of a consultant. I think a consultant would look at the big picture: boaters, commercial pleasure, businesses down there, you know, downtown, look at the demand, look at how it is presently being used, and make recommendations. I took a look today at the prior parking studies, and I noticed that the town study of 6 years ago makes some of our recommendations. And specifically, it recommends looking at an alternative site and mentions the sand pit that should be examined. So I found that interesting that at that time, many of their perceptions were the same as ours. But whether it's part of the written report or done orally quickly, I would like to present this overview at the forum and to the select board. I don't think that there's a need for a lot of numbers as much as there is a need for an overview as to who is using it, how they're using it, the demand, and what we anticipate for the future.
Where would you imagine a satellite being? Just the sand pit?
Well, I think everything should be on the table before a conclusion is drawn that there's nothing available.
Where's the sand pit?
By the town dump. I drove through it the other day. There's a lot of stuff that has to be moved if you're
Yeah,
gonna
and
make
there's
it.
also, you know, there's off of High Toss,
Yeah,
the DPW.
yeah, right, yeah. There's extra land there.
Yeah, there's a lot of land there.
Do we want to get into that?
Well, we're saying it's not needed, I think.
Well,
need it.
you had indicated your thought last time about not getting into that. That's why I worded the last paragraph the way I did.
Well, I certainly would take advice from this group.
I mean, you know, I drove there the other day. It's like 0.2 of a mile to downtown from there. There's a lot of land there.
It's huge.
2 tenths.
And, you know, a basic asphalt lot with a bus running a matter of minutes to downtown and to the marina, I think is something that should be looked at. You know, the whole question of do you want a shuttle bus, I think, is very tricky. and can easily not be all that valid. Because when people are in their comfort zone, as they are now, when most of the time parking's available, and those who wait at Newcomb are still happy campers to get in, I don't think they're going to vote for a shuttle bus because they don't feel the need for it. But if we suddenly got hit with a lot of erosion, lost spaces, I think people's attitude would change, as they did at the Seashore headquarters going to that beach.
I just can't see running shuttles through the downtown of Wellfleet. That's me.
Well,
personally.
I'm thinking more so to the marina and that business area, Commercial Street and the marina.
So would you go down by the library? The route?
No, on West Main Street, just past the DPW.
Yeah, you probably just go
the
down
left.
Holbrook.
Just go down West
Oh,
Main Street,
all right, okay, yeah.
you know.
I-
We have so little land available. When people dedicate their interest to looking at possible sites, it's not rocket science. I mean, I think the conclusions can be drawn pretty quickly, you know? So, I suppose one could make the argument that we don't need to mention specific sites. I found it interesting they did there because they felt it was an obvious site to consider, given the proximity to downtown and to the marina.
Are you saying the sand pit is 0.2 of a mile from downtown?
I'm driving past the DPW headquarters, just past it on the left, High Toss Road. That area in there where the DPW uses it now.
I'd say it's about 0.6 miles to Town Hall from there.
Is it?
I live right next to the DPW.
Yeah. So I was thinking more of coming out and going down Holbrook Avenue, you know. A quick run down to the marina. Do the loop on Commercial Street if need be, and then come back.
But is this assuming that you turn the marina into 100% or 75% marina and mooring and commercial users? And that shuttle is for the restaurants and galleries, that type of thing? Or is it, how would the use of the existing marina be?
Well, given how many people there are down there, combination marina and business
Right.
going up Commercial Street, I would see it servicing that area,
The whole thing, okay, going up and down.
doing a loop.
Yeah.
You know, and given the shortness, the distance, one would think that, you know, one bus would be sufficient.
I don't see it needed during the week, except maybe 2 or 3 weeks a year, and then the weekends only.
Well,
Because you're going to be,
are you taking into consideration the advent of dredging and the increased demand?
no, not yet, but
During the
but the flip side of that is you may be picking up 100 spaces by not having the beach parking office there in the morning, or more till noontime is when part of their rush hour is. No, actually, it isn't, because the renters come in at 3 o'clock, then they go get their stickers, so it's two periods. So, I don't know, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the problem is how many, if, you know, you don't know exactly what the demand for marina parking is going to be with people with slips and moorings, but, so that's why it's hard to pick out a number. But if you say you're going to dedicate, you know, I don't know, I'll make up a number for lack of 40 spaces, let's say, it's going to have a huge impact on the merchants. And I wouldn't, you know,
Well,
I wouldn't want to be one of these selectmen that says that's the decision we made, because, it's gonna have a big, you're not gonna have very many happy campers.
Well, I can only share with you, as one who's down there every day, my perception of it when we had dredging and now when we don't. And clearly what I saw was a much greater demand. And, ultimately, as I shared last time, I think ultimately it starts with the town, the select board, establishing priorities for parking there, with all of the demands. And I think that will dictate to some extent where they go from there. We have mentioned here, for example, paving the grassy area at the Mayo Beach parking area.
I wouldn't suggest paving it, I'd say just use it.
Just use it, whatever.
Just as a side note, I meant to mention this the other week, there is an alternative, you'd mentioned seashells. The other alternative that gets used in commercial to cut down the size of retention ponds for parking areas, it's a concrete mesh. It's like very thick, squares. So the water still goes through it and grass still comes through it, but it provides a surface for the cars to park on.
I mean, I endorse your thinking that we shouldn't get into specifics because I think that's a whole arena that another group has to look at, with everything on the table and ruling in or out possibilities. Maybe it is more than one parcel of land. We don't know that. But I did address in there the issue of the Marine Enterprise Fund because I think a lot of people don't realize it is self-supporting, to the marina. And in order to generate that amount of income, you have to provide boaters parking.
Well, you say that, but sort of the Machiavellian view where you just let the market take its toll. I know when I was an attorney in New Hampshire, I was doing limited liability companies for moorings in different harbors in Massachusetts, because the demand was so tight that people were trying to pass them on after they died and tried all sorts of things. So, I suppose the argument could be made, there's going to be such a demand for those slips, and there has not, whether it's right or not, they'll just make do complaining all the time.
There's still a waiting list, right, Joe?
There is a waiting list, but let's take a look at that. We know for a while now, people have given up moorings and slips to go to other harbors, to go to other towns, to go to marinas. I think we can reasonably anticipate there will be more of that if there is not available parking for boaters. So ultimately, the town, in its wisdom, has to establish a priority and decide what they want there. Maybe they want to scale it back and have fewer moorings, slips, and a lower demand for parking. We don't know that. I don't think they know that yet because they haven't really addressed it. But I do think it's important to outline all the constituencies in the present conditions, the number of slips, the number of moorings, to establish what is there now, what the demand is, and what we can reasonably expect the demand to be. Now, there's also a good number of people who have said to us, I waited a lot of years for a slip, myself included. I finally got one. I'm severely limited when I can get out, but dredging is coming. And I'm going to be there every day, and I'm going to have my family with me, and the charter captains are going to be there every day with their customers, bringing a car or two. So, there's a lot of pieces in that pie, And I think ultimately the select board has to review all of them and establish priorities. And certainly, in my mind, one remedy is to seriously explore off-site parking. We have a small town, the shuttle service is not, we're not traveling to P-Town. It's not unreasonable. And I think boaters will make that trade-off, go there to drop their coolers and gear off, park, and then shuttle 5 minutes to the marina.
How do people get to the boats? Is there a mooring service? The mooring boats?
Well, they use the mooring service with one company, or they have their own dinghy.
Skiff, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it feasible, once the harbor is dredged, that if you were to pave parts of Indian Neck area there, that you could have a little ferry or shuttle service from there to the boats as opposed to?
Many years ago, when I was on a mooring, I parked there and went out there in a raft. Sure.
Yeah, but I think this all goes to the fact that our advice to the select board is they jump on this, hire someone, and explore all these, because we could be talking all night.
Well, that's why I
And
put
I think
in what
that's
I
why,
did
you know,
in
I
the
mean-
last paragraph about recommending the services of professionals with the planning expertise. I mean, my expectation is they're just not going to look at boaters. They're going to look at all the business activity there. They're going to talk to those people. They're going to establish what demands are where and project how many cars, and then report back to the selectmen. Obviously, you've got a problem, they're going to say, and they're earning their money in considering, what are the alternatives? What are the remedies?
One other thing, Danny, do we need one slide at the beginning when you're speaking that just shows the 4 surveys that went out, total number of responses, comments, that type of thing? It would just be one matrix.
For the marina survey?
All surveys, just all 4, in one page.
Sure.
Yeah.
I along those lines, I think it's impressive out of 450 voters, 200 responded.
I think we got, a 30% response thereabouts on the ocean, on the,
I would endorse that. I think people should know that.
yeah.
And just one point, Joe, in the last paragraph, you have extension parking area. My suggestion would be to put satellite parking, because extension acts like you're going to add on to something that's physically there. So my thought, you might just want to put satellite there.
Yeah.
You want to cover yours, Will?
Well, I think mine, if you've got some of the numbers, I think.
I get the numbers, yeah,
So
I'll send them to you.
If we could fill those in, I mean, I don't know, mine's simple enough. I just like to hand it out myself, but.
Under the second, somewhere in one of these, which is, we've already done elsewhere too, but
But no, I mean.
I think we
mine-
have to put in that, for like Whitecrest, Cahoon Hollows, we strongly urge, continued study of the needs that may result from weather events or,
Well, that's why I think the last paragraph I talked about, continuing on with the accumulation of data.
okay. All right, okay.
Rob,
I think we've got to recommend it.
is there mention of the fact that?
Yeah, you got it on there, I think, yeah.
Is there mention of the fact in here that on any given year, the makeup of the.
Sandbars?
The makeup of the bars change, so, I mean, LeCounte's filled once last year. I know summers where LeCounte's was filled all the time, constantly, with a line down the street to, almost down to PB, because that's where the action was. So, I mean, the last sentence that you say is, it's a fluid situation. I mean,
Fluid situation.
that's-
I can
that
just-
should
I
be
can ju-
emphasized
I could
that,
just put parens,
you know.
sandbars move.
yeah, I mean, it's just.
And anyone that
one
knows the
year,
beach
it could
will
be
know.
Whitecrest, one year it could be, I mean, I even think, don't you feel like Newcomb's has gotten a lot more popular in the last 3 or 4 years than, have you been going down there forever?
But that's been a popular, I mean, I was up in Vermont recently, and ahead of me was a Vermont plate on the car with Newcomb. That was the Vermont vanity plate.
Just
And
steal it?
I know it's been popular, but-
And I got closer up to it, and right next to it was one of those small Wellfleet oyster things, so.
No Oval B?
So I think Newcomb for decades, for some, has been the beach to go to. But you certainly are correct. If the sandbar moved, people would move as well.
But it's the simplicity of getting to the beach there, too, is the big one. Yeah, just not having to walk too much.
Yeah, as we get older, it looks better and better.
Okay.
Well,
Now, for the selectmen, are we putting their written in the slides to them? I'm going to make a presentation, but the written component of it, is it going to be a combination of slides and written text, or what?
I guess we need to.
Okay.
I just haven't had time to put together a written report.
Okay.
And certainly we can use some of the stuff that you guys have done.
I'll be glad to do my section if you want. Put it into text, shorter text. And then I think on the PowerPoint, we should put them all into one.
One format?
No, well, not one one format, fine, but just one file, so we can just keep bing, 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 not having to find different files. But, mine needs work. I mean, the background, I don't know what's going on with it, but maybe we can find, maybe someone at Town Hall has some expertise better than mine as far as, and there's ways,
Well, if we pick a theme, one of the themes.
yeah, pick a theme. I was looking for something that looks seashore-y, so got blue.
That'll look fine.
Perhaps one format, I do think it should be in writing to complement
Okay.
the visuals. Perhaps one format would be for you to write a brief introduction. Much of what was in the early slides, our charge and so forth, what we did, the studies that we conducted and so forth. And then have the 3 main sections.
Yep.
The marina, the downtown, and the beaches.
And we have to add one for the commercial, too, at some point. Not that a lot was noted there, but there was the commercial survey, merchants.
That's the downtown.
That's
downtown,
downtown.
okay.
Yeah. The 3 main sections that consumed most of our time and work. I think that format would be an easy read, would be on the record,
Yep.
and it would complement what we're putting up there.
Yeah, and just so I don't forget it, in terms of the parking with the marina and the business district, if the selectmen came and said X number of spots are gone for the general parking, those people are going to park in town. So the two are very linked. I mean, I walk all the time back and forth from the marina to town. I'm doing,
But don't you
and
think,
so just so people don't think that they're separate items, because when you do something at the harbor, it's going to affect, at least in my humble opinion, it's going to affect big time stuff in town.
well, that's why I included in the write-up up Commercial Street, and that bit leading into the center of town. My expectation of a consultant would be to look at all of that. As a whole.
But all I'm saying, it might be good to put it out there, so not just so that the people know that, because otherwise I wouldn't have thought of that at first. So other than the fact that I've been here for 18 months, that there's a linkage between the two. So if we're going to give a presentation, it's good for people to hear that, because otherwise they just might slip their, it might
And-
not be in their consciousness. That's all I'm thinking.
And doesn't that, what you're saying, support the idea, if there was a satellite lot available fairly close, to do the loop?
Yeah.
Downtown, Commercial Street, the
But I
marina.
think, I think that should be looked at by someone with a lot more expertise than I have.
I mean, I agree. I think the downtown and Commercial Street are very much a part of that whole area. when you talk about parking. I'm reminded of Oyster Fest. Now, we're dealing with much greater numbers, but people very orderly get on the bus downtown and take it down to the marina where they parked or come back.
What did they gross in parking from that this year, do you know?
20,000.
20,000, wow. So there's what, 200 spaces? 210? What'd you say, 310?
At the marina?
Yeah.
301.
So that's a lot of turnover.
And they're happy to pay it, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We never get a complaint.
The 20?
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good revenue source.
because they know that the parking is easy and readily available, but they can hop the bus
Yeah.
and go a short distance. And I think that's key. Now, if they're commuting from the Newcomb Hollow lot to the marina, I think that's going to be different. But, you know, if, again, I come back to that sand pit, you know, and how close it is, if that was viable, I mean, that's a short hop.
Yeah,
Short
taking a
ride.
shuttle with all your beach stuff to Ocean Beaches, that's a little different. You know, you got,
Yeah, that was the major concern in the comments about the shuttle bus was, you know, how do I get all my toys to the beach?
Well, that's why I mentioned the idea about boaters dropping their gear off at the pier. And then,
Are you envisioning stickers or, well, it doesn't know, getting too detailed. I think we have to wait till at least the first phase of the dredging is done.
you know, the Marina Committee has studied that for over a number of years. And there are so many dynamics to that. You know, the whole enforcement aspect of it, unless you put a gate up with a guard there, the whole enforcement aspect of it is going to require more staff, you know, and then you get into, when we've had public comment, you get into the whole arena of, I'm a full-time resident. I have a dump sticker and a beach sticker. I expect to park there for free. Okay? You can go to Provincetown and nobody parks for free. So there are so many dynamics to that study. You know, that's going to be a separate issue in and of itself.
Yeah, I think one of the things they have to look at, like the beachcombers, what was it, $50,000 for the front lot? And your shuttle bus, I think last year cost you $75,000. I don't know what it cost you this year. Is it that $80,000? I don't know. But, you know, they're paying $130,000 for their parking and the others have it for free. So maybe they have to put in some kind of shuttle service that they, you know, their patrons pay for.
And I think that again comes back to the town establishing priorities.
Right.
Is everybody going to pay, or are some folks going to be exempt? Fortunately, we don't have to deal with that.
Okay. What's the next meeting date? I think that,
Well, what about a next meeting date? I'm really appreciative of the fact that we went through these things, because it shows that I've got a lot of work to do, but in making these slides and doing the report. We've got two possible dates on the agenda there. I think I had, November 20th and December 4th.
Can I ask, who is composing the section on downtown?
Well, we thought Sheila was.
I started it, but there's really, other than the survey, there's not much data to put out.
We've got parking tickets.
Yeah, that's about it. So I was struggling with what to put. Actually, one of those presentations is the first page of it, but doesn't have much on there.
But isn't that going to be quite brief?
Yeah, it will be very brief, but it's,
Because we had a 30% return, and is that correct?
Yeah,
On the
roughly, yeah.
merchants, and there's no outstanding problems presented.
Yeah, I think, was it Mike Hurley that said to us, one of the officers said to us that there's basically not a problem parking in town. I forget who it was.
this year there wasn't, and
but
part of it was attributable to the lighthouse being closed.
Right. White House being closed and the farmer's market moving up the hill.
Right.
Yeah, and that's permanent, so. that's
So
it.
perhaps at the next meeting, we could review Sheila's write-up and have her submit it if she can't be here, so we can finalize that. Then we have the three main sections ready to go. And if you could put together that intro, I think that would be sufficient.
I think she noted on the forum that have to be February unless we piggyback someone else. Is that not correct? Because we just went through an hour and a half doing this. Obviously, we'll go a little faster if we weren't questioning, but I think it's going to be at least an hour presentation between all of us.
Oh, I suspect it is, and if people
Yeah.
are interested, it'll go on more than that.
Yeah, so I think we need our own separate one.
Okay.
But that means we have to wait till February at this point. I thought we were in for November or December, but,
I'm not ready for November, that's for sure.
no way for November, but
But
December.
if we met on the 20th with your intro, incorporating the marina piece and the beach piece, at that time, we could also then finalize the downtown, and we would be ready, one would think, to move ahead without having a lot of additional meetings. What do you think?
Too soon? For me,
December
it's too
4th.
soon.
I'm not talking about a presentation
No.
right after that.
No, I mean, the next meeting, being the 20th, is
Mm-hmm.
only, what, 7 days from now?
Right. Is-
Oh, yeah.
the tw-
Yeah,
Did you put that in
I did.
your email?
It's
Yeah.
well, it's in the
Yeah, I
agenda.
was thinking it was far, oh yeah, that is too soon.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
We're
December
headed-
4th is good, because you get Thanksgiving, too.
good Thanksgiving.
Or beyond that.
Yeah, it looks like we're headed, I guess the forum doesn't really matter. What's most important is that we get our recommendations to the select board before they start budgeting for next year.
Well, I don't, it would be nice, let me
Yes.
just say it that way, but I don't think it's necessary.
No, well, at least, I think in the meetings they've attended, we've made note of the things we think they have to spend money on.
Well, and we're not the ones that are gonna spend money.
No, we're
It's
not,
gonna be Suzanne, it's gonna be Mike, and they're gonna be putting their budgets together.
right.
So we work within our comfort zone to finalize our product. And then whenever they want to hear from us, they can let us know.
Well, when we see a final, I don't see a final yet. When we see a final, we tell them that we're ready as of such and such a date.
I'd be glad to work on putting all our presentations into one PowerPoint presentation.
I'll take you up on it.
Okay. And I may have to engage the services of someone to get the backgrounds.
Are you
I
thinking you
could
would
do that,
include
Wayne.
something
I
like that?
can, I would put, that's for your report. I would boil this down to maybe 2 slides, so,
I would recommend we not do that. The old teacher in me is saying we're going to overwhelm them with stuff on the screen. I would rather present this orally. I think we've got a lot of statistics, we've
Well, I
got
think it's
graphs.
good to get the key points though, Joe.
But that's a small screen, and I have, when these presentations have been made with the select board, with the screen over there, I've heard a lot of comments from people. They can't see it back there.
well, we can give handouts, I mean.
We'll give handouts.
But I do want to present
Oh, you can
part of
present it.
this.
I'm just saying, we maybe have one screen. Marina survey went out to 450 people, 300 X number responded. But you want a permanent record of it, because when you talk, there's no record, other than on the video, there's
There's
no
a
record.
record that's going to be in writing in our
Well,
report.
to the select board, but,
Well, to anybody, and posted online on the town's website.
all right.
We're gonna need to get going here, so December 4 is our next target.
Correct.
I'd suggest that we circulate these slides and write-ups as we can, as we've done. I don't think we're gonna be violating any major laws.
Bruce, can you get me your slides without the small print at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
Denny, can you get Sheila's write-up?
I'll try.
Get what?
Any write-up Sheila may have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, she's not back till what, I think she's coming back tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, sometime soon. We'll
Perhaps we could let
Okay.
her know what we.
I'll send her a note tomorrow morning, please send us your.
All right, so I think we're gonna get kicked out of the room.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Will.
Second.
All in favor? Done. All right.
Aye.
Tom, thank you.